Hello everyone, welcome back to Durbanites FPL for Game Week 32 review and Game Week 33 preview. It is here guys, the last 6 weeks of this Fantasy Premier League season. Let's start with the table as usual. So again, things are fairly spaced at the top, but it is getting closer as you can see. Looking further down the table, there are 6 teams battling it out for positions here. Big battle of 3 happening at the center of the table to try and finish off in the top half. Then some relegation battles happening, sibling rivalry there. Zahra overtaking Mohammed Siddiq by just 1 point this week. So it's getting really close, and then the fight down at the bottom to see who will finish at the bottom of the table. Right up at the top, still a 22-point differential here. Big week for Mobeen as well. Another big week coming up. Let's see how that goes. Now, looking at the player selections for the week, Alexander Isak, thanks to his double, has been on match Mo Salah 11 out of 12 managers going with the Swedish striker. And then Jacob Murphy, again, thanks to his double and his fantastic form, been picked up by 2/3 of the managers in the league. But for this week, the two differentiators were Nick Pope, 15 points, big at the back for Newcastle, and Ryan Nouri with 14 points, doing really well. 2 managers picking up on him. Let's see how that impacted the hits and misses. So lots of hits this week with the doubles. Stonewalls at the back for Fatih, Hussein, Azra, and our Queen of Defense, Squish. And then up front, super strikers for Fatih, the champ, and Suwad. But then elite strikers, mostly thanks to the Alexander Isak captaincy for myself, Mobsai, Hussein, and Azra. Just one miss to talk about this week. Diddy going with 2 Crystal Palace defenders. Ideally looking like a good double up, but terrible on the points. 0 for Mitchell and -1 for Munoz, making a big difference to his score. Now, looking at the best possible selection, up the back, of course, Pope getting the number 1 jersey. 5 defenders at the back, Nuri, Burn, Livramento, Hoyson, and Virgil coming up with big points. Only 2 in midfield, Ismail Assar and Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy getting the captaincy armband, big 19 points for him over both the games this week. The bench is made up of 3 midfielders, Eze, Salah, and Rogers, all 3 on 6 points, and none of them getting onto the field. Isak, Wissa, and Mamouche finish up the lineup up top, so 3 strikers doing really well, and then Eddie Howe picking up 23 points for those 2 wins. Fantastic performance by him. And Emi Martinez getting the backup keeper jersey. 155 points for this team this week, with 179 including a bench boost at a total cost of 97.4. Again, guys, a very affordable team here, one to consider, and look at how you will set up your team going forward for these last 6 weeks. Looking at the fixture rating as well, time for us to look at this. These 6 fixtures now will not change these 6 weeks, we'll just keep graying out as they're going. Arsenal with a double this week have to be the favorite picks. If you're looking at your players, you got to triple up on Arsenal here. Whether you're going to go with Saka, whether you're going to go with Trossard, whether you're going to go with Raya, definitely got to look at that. You've got to throw in a defender as well from Arsenal. However, don't forget that Arsenal have now progressed to the semi-final of the Champions League, and that means that they are going to be super cautious about rotations. So it gets very tricky because doubles are coming at a price, and of course there's the blank in game week 34. So Arsenal are going to blank in game week 34. Liverpool are good going into it, but tough games against Chelsea and Arsenal, and a pretty tricky fixture against Spurs. But this week, Leicester, no doubt about it. Looking at Villa, double this week, not an easy one with informed Newcastle and Manchester City. City again against Everton and then Aston Villa. Crystal Palace again, double this week, so the double comes into effect. Bournemouth and Arsenal. The Arsenal game is going to be tough, I think, but on the Bournemouth game, possibilities for them to get some good points there. And then you've got Chelsea, who's got some fairly good games before running into Liverpool, Newcastle, and Notts Forest along the way. Now, teams that you would have to be cautious with are definitely those that are blanking next week. But if you look at it, Everton have some tough games coming up. Even though McNeil is back, it's going to be super tough. Then you've got Fulham, we've got Chelsea coming up, and then a good break. Bournemouth, who've been off the boil, having Crystal Palace this week, who might look for a win there. Then Manchester United, Arsenal, Aston Villa, City. It's a tough run in towards the end of the season. And then Brentford, who have some challenging games coming up, but not a bad end to their season. Looking at our choices. Edison is highly doubtful for Manchester City, so he might get one out of the two games this week. Not entirely sure on the replacement as well, and therefore not really making a suggestion. But Reyes, a top pick for goalkeeper this week. Winnable games for Arsenal, and chances are he will feature in both. And then you've got Sells for Nottingham Forest, Emi Martinez with a double as well for Villa, and Dean Henderson with a double for Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace did not have a good first double game week. Hopefully looking to spring back this week. In the defense, Alexander-Arnold Trent might be back this week, but he is still doubtful. So for those that have Conor Bradley, you might think about holding him. Gabriel is still out for Arsenal. Aina is highly doubtful for Nottingham Forest. Lisandro Martinez definitely out for Manchester United, as is Hall and Stones for Manchester City and Newcastle. And Wan-Bissaka is doubtful for West Ham, even though they have a favourable one against Southampton this week. Looking at the choices, Saliba and Timber for Arsenal. Here again, because of the games coming up, there is a chance of rotation here, so just be aware of that. But they do have the doubles at very winnable as well. Then you've got Kirkias from Bournemouth, Pedro Porro from Spurs, Luca Digne from Aston Villa, as well as Ezri Konsa. So either one of them. Digne has not played in the last two games, but that is also because Aston Villa have been rotating because of their Champions League, but that is done now. So look at these guys having a good run, trying to hold on to that European Champions League spot within the league. Cucurella is there for Chelsea. He scored as well in the European competition, so expect him to be in good form still. Milenkovic for Notts Forest, and Munoz for Crystal Palace. Again, not having a great first double week, but hopefully going to spring back this week. Then looking at the midfield, you've got Rodri out for City, as Foden is also doubtful for the double. Ahmad still out for Manchester United. He will probably be back in the last week of the season, but for now still out. Kluivert is making his way back. Might see him get some minutes this week, but no guarantees. Madison and Son, both of them doubtful. Not sure whether this is actually an injury or and Postecoglou probably just resting them again ahead of their semi-final against Bodo Glimt. Now looking at the picks, Salah is back, of course, with Liverpool, so expect him to be on everybody's team. Elanga's there and Gibbs White for Nottingham Forest, who are looking to pick up their form again towards the end of the season. Here's the Arsenal doublers and Aston Villa as well. So Saka, Marino, Rodgers, Asensio, and Rashford. Saka has been in great form, but again, coming back from an injury, Arsenal definitely want him there for the semi-finals and hopefully finals for the Champions League for them, and they will definitely try and limit his minutes, I feel, so just be very careful about that if he's your captaincy choice. From Aston Villa, you've got Rodgers, Asensio, and Rashford. Now that Villa are out of the Champions League, expect Rodgers to play both the games. He's probably the one that's going to get the most minutes. Asensio and Rashford will be a bit swapped as well. Rashford may be also deputizing for Ollie Watkins along the way. Asensio had an absolute shocker this week, missing 2 penalties in the games. It was really, really bad for all the managers that had him, myself included. Not expected from someone of that pedigree. Gordon is back fully healthy, and that might mean some limited time for Harvey Barnes. Might also mean him swapping a bit with Jacob Murphy, as they did in the game against Manchester United. So very, very tricky one to watch for. But Murphy is definitely on form and might have a better chance of staying on the field. Barnes is another good outside choice, but again, now that Gordon is back, these guys will probably be dropping a few minutes as well. Then you've got Brennan Johnson for Spurs if you still want to give them a punt. Enzo as well for Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez has been doing really well for Chelsea. And then the double is for Crystal Palace, Eze and Sa, both of them getting on the points this last week that went past. So no reason to doubt that they will be able to do it again. And then you've got Kevin De Bruyne having an absolute screamer for Manchester City this week. He is looking to be on form again and definitely wanting to leave a good impression in his last season for Manchester City. So he's definitely looking to move in the summer. It's his last few games for City, a club that gave him a lot of fame and fortune. So he's going to look to be doing it. So in the doubles, he probably will not get 2 full games, but he will definitely get at least 1 game and a half, I would suggest, of minutes. So if you're looking for someone to put in there. On the forward side, Arsenal are still in trouble. Havertz and Gabby Jesus are out. They are really struggling to find a striker to fill the gap. Chris Wood is on his way back for Nottingham Forest, so only slightly doubtful, but should play, and he did play last week as well. Haaland is out for Manchester City and Zirkzee is out for Manchester United. He's not making it back this season, in case you were wondering about putting him in. Isak is still on the choice for Newcastle. He is in insanely good form. So at this moment in time, if anyone's going to score for Newcastle, it's probably going to be Isak or Murphy. So not a bad hold, even though they don't have a double this week. But then you've got Ollie Watkins. Again, Ollie Watkins, great form. He's right up there with the forwards. However, for some reason, he seems to be highly rotated, and I don't know whether this was again a Champions League ploy in terms of keeping him fresh. But now that the Champions League is gone, it's possible he will feature in this double week. So again, a bit risky, but he is one that can turn the tide. Then you've got Matthias Cunha, also back from his suspension, well rested, scoring again for Wolves. Good game against Manchester United, and a fast forward like that might have a chance of getting a few goals, as will Jean-Philippe Mateta as well. So having a bit of a terrible weekend, but so did Crystal Palace in total. Still, he managed to get onto the team of the week. He can definitely score. He's got some fairly good games this week to give a go on. However, he seems to not be playing the full game. Again, maybe recovering from his injury. He is being clattered into by teams, so just be very wary of that if you're relying on him. Gakpo will probably be in action for Liverpool as well against Leicester. It's a good choice. Then you've got João Pedro for Brighton and Omar Marmoush for Manchester City. With that double this week, Everton and Aston Villa, probably a chance for them to actually be a captain. So it could be a captaincy choice if you're not looking at Bukayo Saka. So captaincy choices for this week: Bukayo Saka, probably Omar Marmoush if you really want to go safe, probably Mo Salah against Leicester, or Alexander Isak. It's really up to you. Now, looking at the system managers, easily Mikel Arteta is the choice for this week. Here you're looking at, again, at least a 20 plus haul, at least 20 from there, because 2 wins should be there. Clean sheets should be easy to come by for Arsenal, and then you're looking at a few goals as well. Olivier Glasner with Crystal Palace has the chance for table bonus, so a chance for him to actually get those 5 bonus or 10 bonus points on the way, as does Emery. So no table bonus for him, but good chances for him to get points from there. And then of course Pep Guardiola, if you think that he is going to inspire Man City in this double game week against Everton and I think Crystal Palace as well. And then of course Arne Slot, if you want to go safe and you're still playing your system manager, that's the way to go. Now, looking at the chip strategy, with the 6 game weeks that we have left, depending on what you have or have not used, most managers have already used the wildcard, so we're not going to talk about that. But if you're still holding on to your bench boost, this could be a good week for it, depending on what your bench looks like, and definitely a chance for triple captain. There will probably be a double game week in game week 35 or 36 because of the FA Cup and the European draws. Based on that, you might want to hold your triple captain, but this is a good week to play it. Choices again. Saka is one of them, Marmoush is the other one, and not really sure where you would go other than that except for Salah. And then if you're doing that this week, definitely next week is a chance to play your free hit, because there's a blank game weeks there for 4 teams, so really reduced roster on that week, and so a lot of blanks coming up. And then you've got the 4 weeks of the season left to then play your bench boost as you would like. If you still have your assistant manager card, you can play it then. If you have no other cards left, then just play that and rake up some additional points from those managers coming into it. And of course, if you still have a triple captain left somewhere along the way, you might want to throw it in that double game week in game week 36. So that's what we have for this week. It is very tight in the league. We're not sure entirely who's going to win, except for probably Liverpool is guaranteed to win, but otherwise in the Durbanites FPL it is very close. It's a super exciting season. But that's all we have for now. Feel free to of course drop a comment if you think you have a good prediction, good strategy, and don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification. Until then, good luck, and we'll see you next time. So long for now.